On this 100 days until the election, the marathon has now become a sprint, and we are also marking 1 week, just 1 week since President Biden quit the race and endorsed his vice president. Kamala Harris then spent the next few days, as you probably saw, holding dozens of events, phone calls, meetings, fundraising, Zooms, and a first-of-a-kind effort to do something no one's ever done over a course of just a couple days, which is take that torch that the president passed her and also try to unify this party at warp speed.
We have 105 days until Election Day, and in that time, we've got some work to do. I am running to become President of the United States of America. I know Donald Trump's type. I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to take our country backward. He and his extreme Project 2025 agenda will weaken the middle class. We are not going back. Not going back. We're not going back. We are not going back. Joe, are you watching? Do you hear this clapping?
You're the best, kid.
Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it?
You can hear some of the excitement. Harris reflects the Biden-Harris administration's policies, but also brings her own style, biography, and priorities to the ticket. And now she's atop the ticket. She has clinched the pledged delegates. She has the leadership. She has the Clintons, the Obamas. This is her nomination. It will be her convention. And she is now, with her own style, leading on certain issues that she wants to put front and center, including women's rights.
So-called leaders are saying that after an individual has experienced such a crime of violence, a violation to their body, and surviving that these so-called leaders would say to that same person, and the next decision you make about your body is not yours either. That's immoral. That's immoral. To take away her ability to decide what happens to her body next?
Harris, a nationally known figure, but this first week has also been so strong that even the Trump campaign referred to it as her honeymoon and said the polls may tighten. Many Democrats seem more excited about Kamala Harris than ever before, from the fun memes to reflecting on her own strong and prosecutorial style, which people remember when she has questioned witnesses on Capitol Hill.
I do want you to be honest.
I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. It was you who made the charging decision, sir.
What?
You made the decision not to charge the president.
No, in a Prost memo and in a declination memo.
You said it was your baby. You know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm not thinking of any right now.
America does not want to witness a food fight. They want to know how we're going to put food on their table.
Now, that's just some of the history. I mentioned where we were 1 week ago. A week can feel like a long time in politics, but it's still too early to know where the voters will land 100 days from now. The early polls have showed a surge of support, but also headwinds where Trump is still doing fine. Many polls are basically tied and within the margin of error. Harris has the shortest calendar for any nominee ever because of Biden's late exit. She has a shorter window to pick her running mate before the convention. The campaign's not offering clues yet, although we've seen certain names floated in the media. She did once tell me about her dream running mate, though, back when this was a hypothetical. If you could have anyone, living or dead, as your perfect running mate, who would it be?
Muhammad Ali.
Ooh, Muhammad Ali, strong.
How you like that?
How do you like that? Well, Ali can throw a punch, take a punch, and of course is a civil rights icon, among other things. But that was an exercise. She is now really looking seriously at a range of people, including potentially the Democrats with the right resumes in swing states who could affect the race and also be ready to serve on day one. Now, what you see here is relevant to Kamala Harris as the only woman of color to be a major party's presidential nominee. She was the second such woman in the U.S. Senate. She showed ambition and energy because she was one of the first candidates to run to fill the big shoes of the senator you also see on your screen, the long-serving California Senator Barbara Boxer. She served 24 years in that post in California before Harris became her successor. You are really one of the perfect people we could come to on this tonight. You're our leadoff guest. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you so much.
We'll put the picture back up and start there. A lot of us have been watching Harris over the years, but you really knew her, and she filled your shoes, as I said, proverbially. What can you tell us about that time and how she's grown into her work in government?
I can tell you that I became really friends with Kamala in 2010. She was running in a very difficult race for Attorney General. Very few women in the country have been AGs, and in California, she became the first. And it was very hard for a woman to be tough, you know. That's why I named my book The Art of Tough, because it may not come naturally to us. We're always trying to bring people together, and you got to be tough as a prosecutor. And she won that race. It was really hard. I remember calling her almost every day to find out if she had won, because it took so long to find out. And then when I decided not to run again for the United States Senate, 6 years later, she had already been reelected handily as a prosecutor. She was the perfect person for that seat. And as you showed from some of the clips, you know, frankly, I hated to see her leave the Senate because I love the Senate. And I love the way she went after some of those people who were trying to hide their true feelings about a woman's right to choose and about crime and all the rest. She was so good at it. So she won. She grew into that role. And boy, has she grown into this role to be our presidential candidate. Just incredible.
Yeah, and Senator, politics is not proportionate. It's not always fair. It's certainly not always logical. And I say that because so many Democrats think that Joe Biden not only did a great thing in 2020 in finding ways to unite the party and stop Trump, which was not guaranteed. He's incumbent president when he was not only doing everything to win, he was trying to cheat, which he did on through Jan 6. But not only that, a lot of Democrats we've talked to think that he has had a great first term. And yet, as you know, there was not only a lack of excitement, but a real concern about whether he was going to win re-election for a second term. Contra Kamala Harris, we've heard from at least, maybe not Democrats out across the country, Senator, but in D.C., all kinds of questioning about her as vice president, which is a hard role. It's a diminished role. Ask Dan Quayle or anyone. And yet in the last week, again, no one's counting votes yet. But in a certain way, the people have spoken a little, and they've started to say they're really excited and pumped. And I could show you in the audience all the measurements we have for that. What do you make of that? That sort of disproportion? Great respect for what Biden's done, but not wanting him to continue. Now that's the change. And whatever she initially faced, now what I would call a huge Kamala moment.
It's a huge moment for her. Now, the president, whom I personally adore, and I believe he will go down in history as one of the greatest, said that if he was convinced he couldn't win, he would definitely stand aside, and he did. But here's the thing. He didn't have to endorse Kamala. He did not. A lot of my colleagues, my former colleagues, were saying, open convention. He said, no, I know she can do it. So here's the thing. So many people respect and admire this president and were saddened by what happened to him, that they said, okay, if she's good enough for Biden, she's good enough for me. That's one piece of it. The other piece is the people who thought that Joe was too old. Here she comes. Here she comes. And she can prosecute this case against Trump. When you talk about a woman's right to choose, It's from here. When you're a woman, it's from here. And you know what it means when people try to take away your rights. And she'll make the case they're coming for us first, then they're coming for you next. And, you know, we see it happening. And so this is an extraordinary moment. You're right to call attention to the 100 days. I have not seen this much excitement. I go back a long way. I was 20 years old. I couldn't even vote then. We didn't have the right to vote at that time till we were 21. And JFK was the candidate. And I remember to this day the feeling in my soul. Everything was so exciting, and America was going to move forward, and the world would look at us with such excitement. And I feel like that is happening now.